My name is Dada Ibrahimovic, and I am a professional development specialist with the Illinois Student Assistance Commission. Sorry if my gaze is a little bit to the right. My big monitor is here and my camera is over here, so it's a little bit easier to see on this side. So today we're going to be going over the Post-Secondary and Career Expectations Overview, or PaCE overview. Before we begin, I just want to go through some housekeeping items with you all. This session is being recorded. It'll be available online within 1 to 2 weeks on our on-demand webinars page. If you or any of your colleagues are having trouble connecting audio through your computer, you can first try playing around with the audio output settings, but other than that, you can use the call me option for audio. You would hear us through your phone, but see us on your screen. If you do happen to have any questions today, I do have a few of my colleagues on. You can use the Q&A feature in the bottom right-hand corner to ask those questions, and they will get back to you pretty shortly. If you're interested in any of our other upcoming webinars, all of our webinars are on our PD/webinars page, so definitely check that out. And last but not least, continuing education credits and professional development hours are available for the webinar today, so just stay tuned until the end of the webinar. We'll be around 11:45. We will open up the chat and post the link to the survey that you need to complete in order to receive CE credits or PD hours. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. So a little bit about ISAC. We are the state agency for financial aid. So we administer scholarships and grants to students across the state of Illinois who decide to stay in the state of Illinois. Our mission statement is providing Illinois students with information and assistance to help make education beyond high school accessible and affordable. And also here on the professional development team, you can see a few of our names. We provide professional development offerings on topics such as navigating the financial aid process, right? The 24-25 FAFSA, just a quick shout out on that one. We do have some more webinars coming out on that. Resources and support options for underrepresented students, understanding the student loan, repayment and forgiveness process and the program. So really anything, college access, financial aid, anything that you're interested in getting more professional development on, definitely check us out. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So this agenda, it'll provide an overview of what we will be covering. So first, we're going to go into the background and legislation on PaCE, so where PaCE came from, and also updated legislation and what you all need to know, especially our public schools. Then in the second section, we'll start with getting started with PaCE, what that looks like. Then we'll move into the PaCE implementation process, and then resources and support options. So let's go ahead without further ado. Okay, so just a little bit of background on PaCE. So in order to fully understand PaCE, it is also important to understand the legislation that PaCE came out of. So in 2015, House Resolution 477, they established an advisory committee to address college and career readiness in Illinois. This was a part of the P20 Council. This committee, they deliberated, and then they made recommendations in 2016. And as a result of all of those recommendations, both the Illinois House and Senate unanimously passed the Post-Secondary and Workforce Readiness Act, otherwise known as the PWR Act. So I'm going to, moving forward, reference it as the PWR Act. The PWR Act, it is comprised of 4 components. On the next slide, I will discuss a little bit more on the other 3 components, but PaCE is one of them. And then Governor Rauner signed that bill into law in 2016. The mandate in the original PWR Act is that all of the state's educational agencies, so that's us here at ISAC, the Illinois State Board of Education, or ISB, Illinois Community College Board, or ICCB, and the Illinois Board of Higher Education. All of us, we are partnered to develop a system ensuring that Illinois high school students are graduating college and career ready. So PaCE was born. So in May of 2022, there was a public act that was signed into law that builds upon that PWR Act with a focus on PaCE and also college and career pathway endorsements. So that's what I'll be discussing in some of the following slides. And in July of 2023, All four of our agencies, we adopted and publicized an updated Illinois PaCE framework, including a middle school framework that we did not used to have a middle school framework previous to this. So in July of 2023, we came out with all of it. Okay, so this graphic breaks down the four components of the PWR Act. PaCE is just one of the components, but I do want to briefly touch on the other three just so that you're aware of what they are and also know which agency to contact for more information. So first is the competency-based education pilot. So this is a competency-based model which allows for experiential learning experiences both inside and outside of the classroom. I believe this is still currently in its pilot phase, and ISB is the one that's primarily responsible for this component. We have transitional instruction in both math and English. We all know that a major barrier for a lot of students in post-secondary persistence is remedial education, right? So this is why the state has established implementation systems for both transitional math classes and transitional English classes in order to help our students, enter into college without having to take any of those remedial classes that don't count, towards their degree and also don't count for credit just to get into the classes that they need to get into. Then there's also college and career pathway endorsements. So school districts, they have the option of awarding college and career pathway endorsements on high school diplomas. So students would earn endorsements by completing something called an individualized learning plan, which is a career-focused sequence. And also professional learning opportunities. ISB is also primarily involved with this effort. So if you do have more questions on CCPEs, while we do know quite a bit, if you have any very specific questions, ISB would be the best person to go to for this. But with PaCE, ISAC, us, we are the lead agency responsible for PaCE. So if you do have questions on PaCE, that's why you're here. All of those should be directed to us. If you do happen to have questions on the other components, just making sure that you reach out to the agency that is leading those efforts. But when in doubt, reaching out to ISB, since they have a hand in each one of these, they can help as well. Okay, so I do want to show you all, we have an updated PaCE crosswalk. I'm not sure how many of you have already been on our website and looked at some of our resource materials, but due to the PaCE being updated in July of 2023, so just last summer, we have also updated a lot of our PaCE resource materials in these past 6 to 8 months at this point. So this crosswalk, it identifies benchmarks that are on the Illinois PaCE that also meet and support CCRIs, college and career readiness indicators, and also CCPEs, so the college and career pathway endorsements. So this graphic is just to show you how the PWR Act and also the Illinois ESSA plan, they are mutually reinforcing legislation. So when you're implementing PaCE, you could also be subsequently hitting on your CCRIs and CCPEs as well, because they are so interconnected. Okay, so I do want to go into a little bit more depth on Public Act 102-0917. So it was signed into law in May of 2022, and it became effective in January. Excuse me. I think I'm losing my voice a little bit here, which we just started, so just bear with me. And it builds upon the Postsecondary and Workforce Readiness Act, focusing on two main components, which is PaCE and college and career pathway endorsements. So it amends certain sections of the Illinois School Code for both public high schools and Chicago public schools. So let's get into it. What exactly is being changed? So for the education agencies, so for us, right, here at ISAC and at ISB, IBHE, and ICCB, no later than July 1st of 2023, which we completed, we had to meet with appropriate stakeholders, and we had to adopt and publicize an updated Illinois PaCE framework, so 9th through 12, and also have a framework that extends into 6th grade, so 6th through 8th, that would be our middle school framework. And then no later than July 1st of 2024, so this is coming up pretty soon here, ISB has to publish and maintain a database by region of employer champions for work-based learning and career readiness programs in order to create a place where people can go by region to see who can they reach out to for more help on CCPEs, also what resources are out there for CCPs as well. And also ISB will publish and maintain that inventory of resources available to support school districts in implementing CCPEs as well. So not only will there be people that you can contact for help on your CCPE journey and learning how to develop programming for your CCPEs, but also that inventory of resources that's available. Okay, so what about adopting PaCE for Chicago public schools? And then we'll move into just general public schools. So for CPS, no later than July 1st of 2024, so this is already this year, they have to adopt and commence implementation of a PaCE framework for grades 6 through 12, aligned to the framework that is adopted by the state agencies. So it does not necessarily mean that they have to adopt the PaCE framework in its entirety, right? It just needs to be a PaCE aligned framework. So, you would take a look at all of the different benchmarks on the PaCE framework, right? And then you can decide whether you want to adopt the PaCE framework or create a PaCE aligned framework, and I'll go through that as well. And also, what they would have to do is they would have to make this framework available on a prominent location on the district's website. So by law, this is what they have to do, just commence that implementation and also have that on a prominent location on their website. So I do also want to note, because we get questions on this quite a bit, this does not mean that there's going to be, some sort of compliance where either ISAC or ISB comes into the school and needs to make sure that there's 100%, completion on every single benchmark. That is not the purpose here. This is just to have a place to document everything that's going on in the schools when it comes to college and career readiness efforts. So let's move to just regular public schools. So for regular public schools, no later than July 1st of 2025, so this is a year later than CPS, a school district other than CPS has to adopt and commence that implementation of career exploration and career development activities in accordance with a PaCE framework for grades 6 through 12. So I also want to note, if you're a unit school district, this means, working 6 through 12 just all at once would probably be easiest. But if you're a district that only serves 9 through 12, you're focusing on your district. If you're a district that serves 6 through 8, you're working on yours, right? Obviously, there can still be partnerships between the middle schools and the high schools, but I do want to make that distinction. Again, with this, a school district's framework has to be available on a prominent location on the district's website. And also, the school district has serving grades 9 through 12 must have elected to implement CCPEs or opted out of implementation. So let me go through what that looks like. So with CCPEs, for people in CPS schools, they must have elected to implement CCPEs. So class of 2026 offer at least one endorsement area. Class of 2028 offer at least 2 endorsement areas, and then class of 2030 offer at least 3 endorsement areas if the school has an enrollment of more than 350 students. For school districts other than CPS, again, just like PaCE, they have 1 year more. They, class of 2027 is when they have to offer at least 1. Class of 2029, they have to offer at least 2. And class of 2031, they have to offer at least 3 if the district has an enrollment of more than 350 students during the 22-23 school year. So we also do want to address that opting out of implementing these changes can be done, though the school board will have to be involved. So the school board would be able to opt out of implementing either all or part of the requirements, but they would have to consider the following. So the school district's current system for college and career readiness, the school district's cost of implementation balanced against the potential benefits to students. So if they feel like, they don't have the funds to, implement a bunch of new programming that they don't have, the willingness and capacity of local business partners to partner with the school district for successful implementation of pathways. So if they're looking for CCPE activities or internships and stuff like that to make the pathway, if they don't have local business partners that are able to help them with that, that could be something to consider. Willingness of higher education institutions to partner with that school district, especially with availability of dual credit opportunities and under the Dual Credit Quality Act. Availability of statewide database of participating local business partners for the purpose of that career readiness and career activities, and also availability of teachers meeting faculty credentials for dual credit courses in an endorsement area. So if they're looking at all of these things and they decide, okay, like it's not going to be advantageous for us to implement CCPEs. We don't, have the budget. We don't have the partners. The school district then has to report its board findings and decision to ISB. So again, the school board needs to be involved in this decision. And once they make the decision, they have to report that to ISB. Okay, so lastly, with legislation, let's talk about House Resolution 681. So House Resolution 681 was adopted March 17th of 2022, and it became effective immediately. So let me explain how it affects ISAC and how it affects ISB. So for ISAC, we have to publish an annual report documenting and recognizing the leadership of districts in implementing a PaCE framework. So we've been working on that. We have a long repository now. ISB also has to publish an annual report documenting and recognizing the leadership of eligible districts that are already implementing CCPEs. So the same way we're doing with PaCE, they are doing with CCPEs. And also they have to continue encouraging all districts serving 9 through 12 to implement CCPEs in multiple areas in collaboration with post-secondary and workforce partners that they have. For ISAC and ISB, we just need to continue encouraging all districts serving grades 8 through 12 to implement their own PaCE framework, as well as extending that PaCE framework into 6th, 7th, and 8th grades as well. All right, so let's get into it. Now that we've discussed the background, let's cover how to move forward with PaCE. So getting started, I do just want to note this number may be even higher now, but we have identified 167 school districts who are implementing PaCE, and we have this PaCE map to show you. So 101 are customized PaCE frameworks, with 31 of those being customized with ISAC, so with our help through our PaCE Framework Development Workshop. We'll be talking about that as well towards the end of the presentation. And 66 have decided to adopt Illinois PaCE in its entirety. So we do have that repository that I was talking about of frameworks that schools are already implementing on our website. So definitely look into that if you are just starting your journey and you're wondering like how much leeway is there in creating a PaCE aligned framework? What have other schools done? What have other schools that are near you have done for their students, or maybe schools that have similar student demographics or similar community partners? What have they been doing? So definitely check that out. So the purpose of the framework, I did talk about it a little bit in the beginning of the presentation, whether it's customized or not. It's supposed to be used as a tool to guide college and career readiness efforts within the school or district. So having that framework, it provides a school or district with 3 outcomes. So first is sustainability. So just having that framework ensures that all the staff in the school understand what's happening in terms of college and career readiness. In many schools across the state, right, there may be only 1 or 2 people in the building whose job it is to take care of college and career readiness efforts. More often than not, it's the college and career coach or college and career counselor. And if a building is structured this way, and let's say that college and career counselor or post-secondary coach, they retire and leave, they may take that programming with them, right? So having a framework, it really allows that work to be replicated from year to year because it's posted on your website. You probably have it posted up and if you have a college and career center, right, having that entire PaCE framework printed out so that the staff, the students can see it, right? It also allows for accountability. So by having that framework now, you have provided all staff members with an understanding of what needs to happen. So then, as staff are looking through the framework, they can also identify ways in which what they are doing in their classes fits into the framework as well. So the classic example we have here is, you may have an English teacher that sees resume writing as something that you want juniors to know before the end of the school year, right? As one of your benchmarks. So the English teacher or the English department, they're like, oh, we do resume writing in senior year, so maybe we should consider doing it in junior year so that we can make sure that our junior year students are creating their resumes, because likely they're also maybe looking for jobs and that need a resume. So we're just going to make sure that we move this programming so that juniors do this. So that's just one example. And then finally, there's flexibility. So flexibility, since that mandate of adopting Illinois PaCE in its entirety only falls on the education agencies, we need to be aligning all of our services off of that framework. But schools and districts, they have that flexibility to make changes and customizations as they see fit on their framework. So I'll go into what that looks like. But it is completely up to the school or district as to how they want to use that resource. So they can choose to adopt Illinois PaCE framework in its entirety or create their own customized one. Okay, so let's go through the new frameworks really quickly. So this is our middle school framework from 6th through 8th grade. So in the middle school framework, I just want to go through some of the components with you all. There are 3 domains. So we have aspiration, self-advocacy, and planning. So just so you all know, there are 2 different categories. So a student should be exposed to, that just means concepts that they need to understand, and a student should be supported to, those are action items or experiences. So the reason that we have the PaCE framework extended into 6th grade, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade now is because we realize as a state that helping students become college and career ready really takes a lot of scaffolding when it comes to activities, right? So we realize that 6th, 7th, and 8th grade is really an integral time when students are, developing their emotional maturity, right? So we want them to work on these 3 domains so that they can come into high school already aspiring to be something, already know how to self-advocate for themselves, and have planning skills so that when they get to high school, they know, what they need to do, at least generally, so that when they see the high school framework, they know, okay, like I see this, I know how to plan for it. I know how to work with my counselors to plan for it or work with my family to plan for it. Okay, so this is the updated 9th through 12th framework. So this is what it looks like. Again, both of these were updated July of last year. So the components for the 9th through 12th framework, we have the domains, so career exploration and development, financial aid and literacy, and post-secondary education, exploration, preparation, and selection. I also need to point out the different categories. So it's similar to the ones from middle school. So a student should be supported to. These are action items that they should be supported to do. This can include tasks such as going to events or things that are deemed necessary to complete before the end of that school year or graduation in general. A student should know is just key concepts that they need to know before the end of the year. And then a student should have, this one's only in the 12th grade. It's used for benchmarks that are time sensitive, such as completing the FAFSA alternative app by 12/31 or whatever the case may be for your school. And also, this is 9th through 12th. So again, this one was updated in July of last year as well. So when getting started with PaCE, especially if you're in the very beginning, the first step is to decide whether you're going to adopt the Illinois PaCE framework in its entirety or develop a customized framework. We have this Illinois PaCE framework and also a customized framework PDF, and also in our resource materials now, we have Google Sheets options for a lot of our customized resource materials, because we got a lot of feedback from schools saying, oh, what if we don't have Adobe or a PDF editor? Can we have some other way to be able to customize some of these documents? So we have included Google Sheets versions for a lot of the different customizable documents. So definitely take a look. So some things to consider when thinking about adopting the Illinois PaCE framework in its entirety, right? While reviewing, consider administration support or approval, right? Sometimes that decision is not going to be up to you. And sometimes administration, they may not even know what PaCE is. You may be the first to introduce it to them. You'll also have to check to make sure that the school has the resources and support available to implement each of the benchmarks. So it might not make sense for your school to adopt the Illinois PaCE framework in its entirety if you see a bunch of benchmarks that are not feasible for your school based on resources. Also, benchmarks that align with CCRI. So if you're implementing the Illinois PaCE framework, you will also be inevitably hitting CCRIs as well, because like I was discussing earlier in the presentation, they are mutually reinforcing. You'll also want to consider the needs of your student population. So when you're looking at each and every one of the benchmarks and you determine that 10 of them or 5 or 10 of them are just not really relevant to your student population, you want to make sure that the framework that you are, looking towards creating will meet the specific needs of your students. And then also partnerships within the community, that's really important as well. On the benchmarks on the PaCE framework, do you have partners available to help you hit those benchmarks? And also potential costs of implementing certain benchmarks. Just an example, let's say you want to have a college fair, but it's a little far away, so you have to bus students to and from, right? How much is that going to cost? Partnerships within the community, right? Are there any services that they may offer to help you with those potential costs? And finally, if you're adopting an Illinois PaCE framework or a PaCE aligned framework, I do want to note you do not need to obtain ISAC approval to use the framework, or you also don't need our approval when you're customizing your framework. So you all get to decide what goes on your framework. It's just important for us that it's aligned and that it works for your school, that you have something that documents what is going on within your school when it comes to college and career readiness. And we want it to be something that helps you and not something that, you look at it and you're like, there's so many that we're not meeting, right? Or there's so many that we can't meet. We want to make sure that it works for you. So if you're considering developing a customized framework instead, again, a lot of these same things you need to consider, right? Making sure that you're addressing CCRIs, getting that administration support or approval. Let's say you went through a PaCE framework development workshop with us, right? Just making sure that they support and approve what you have decided will be on your framework. Again, the available resources and the needs of your student population, potential costs and partnerships within the community. If you don't already have partners, where can you find them? And also, who should or needs to be involved in the framework development piece? So with the framework development piece, it is important to have a team to help you choose the benchmarks, a team that knows about the available resources in your area or what's going on in the classes, right? And school and districts, they can request a PaCE framework development workshop from us. So we come into the school and help facilitate creating that PaCE framework, or you can customize that PaCE framework on your own instead. So with the framework development team, again, this is only necessary if you're customizing a PaCE framework. But the reason we want a team is because we believe that consensus is really important among the team about, which benchmarks to include and also which grade levels each benchmark should be assigned to. So just some potential members within that team, counseling staff, always important, school district admin, so curriculum directors, principal, superintendent, curriculum director specifically, they definitely know like what's going on in their classes, and then teachers. Teachers, I think this is one area that some schools, they decide not to invite to the PaCE Framework Development Workshop, but we find that teachers are the ones who know the most about what's going on in the school because they're seeing the kids every single day, right? So teachers from both middle school and high school from different departments are also important when gathering feedback about what benchmarks should be on the framework and under which grade level they should be. Okay, so let's move into the PaCE implementation process. So once you have decided, okay, we're adopting the PaCE framework in its entirety, or we are customizing one and you finished, customizing it, then you're going to establish an implementation team. So implementation team is going to be a little bit different from the framework development team. So implementing PaCE, it requires collaboration, right, across a range of professionals within the school, within the district, and the community. So this team is going to be probably a bit larger, and it's going to be composed of members working within each of the 3 domains, right? So the financial aid and literacy, the college domain, and the career domain. So making sure that you have members from each. So the team will then work collaboratively to assess, address, and also implement programming that aligns with the framework. And it involves a variety of school, district, community partners on that implementation team, just to make sure that the unique needs of your student population is being addressed. All available school, district, and community resources are being identified and considered, and also students are exposed to college and career readiness concepts by various staff members working in different capacities and not just from 1 or 2 people that are in the building. So what are potential team members for the implementation team? So potential members, again, counseling staff, school district admin, again, teachers. All of these are really important, but again, this team is going to be quite a bit bigger because you should be including community college partners, 4-year college and university partners. If you have 4-year colleges or universities close to you, your ISAC core members, they would be perfect to be on this team, as well as the local business partners, people that will help you with especially the career domain, helping with different career activities and offering your students things such as job shadowing, coming into the classrooms, presenting on their business, or those types of things. So with the PaCE implementation process, we have determined that there are 3 steps. So this is not the only way to implement a framework. However, we develop these steps just based off of how many schools we've worked with at this point and schools that we've seen be successful in implementing. So the first step is to take an inventory. So this is where your school is going to look at the framework and see where your school is at in relation to that framework. We also want to note, that the framework does not need to be only what's happening in your school right now. It's where you want your school to be, ideally, right? Then you would prioritize gaps by documenting what is currently being done to meet the benchmarks, as well as brainstorming ways to address unmet benchmarks or benchmarks that are, maybe you have some programming, but it's never really worked out quite well, right? Then the final step is action planning. This is to divide the work and then determine how each benchmark will be implemented and who will be doing what step in terms of planning for that programming. So we encourage schools to revisit these steps every year just to make sure that the PaCE implementation process is in order and your PaCE framework is still meeting the needs of your students and organizations. So let's go into the first step. So take an inventory. This is where you assess what's currently being done within your school or district to meet each of the benchmarks that's on your framework. You're going to be identifying areas of strengths and also areas in need of additional support, or maybe there's benchmarks that have no programming at all. So when you're taking that inventory, consider which benchmarks are currently being met, how well or effectively are benchmarks being met, and which benchmarks are not being met at all or have 0 programming. So we have worksheets to help with this step. So we have created these worksheets in order for schools to be able to take that inventory. So what they would do is they would put each and every single one of the benchmarks into each of the worksheets. We have one for post-secondary, one for financial aid and literacy, and one for career. So they are split into the 3 domains. And then you would look at the degree of completion scale at the top right-hand corner, rate it 1 through 5. So 1 would be less than 25% of students are hitting this benchmark. If you have a 0, I would just recommend a 0 be, hey, we don't have any programming. So a 0 could exist as well. And then 5 being 100% of students are meeting these benchmarks. So we do also want to note that your students don't have to meet 100% of your benchmarks. It's going to be up to the school to decide what is successful for you all. Maybe having a 3 for each and every one of the benchmarks is what's successful for your school, or maybe having a 4. So just determining what's successful for your school. Maybe it's not feasible for 100% of students to meet 100% of the benchmarks, right? So just having that conversation is really important as well. Step 2 would be after taking that inventory. So the next step is to prioritize gaps. So for each benchmark, you would be documenting any activities that are currently being done to meet the benchmarks. Especially you would be taking, the benchmarks that maybe were rated 2 or a 1. So you're documenting what's currently being done and then brainstorming potential activities to improve or expand what is currently being done. So we do have worksheets for each of the steps. So going to go through this one with you all. So the benchmark here is attend a financial aid award letter workshop. So maybe the current activity right now, it's not being, attended very well. Maybe only 10 students come, but you planned on 60 coming, right? So the current activity is, okay, after school award letter workshop is hosted in the school library during the spring semester, right? That makes sense, right? The spring semester, that is when students would be going through their financial aid award letters. And the current partner is just one school counselor. But they decided, this isn't really working out. What are some ways that we can improve on this? So the potential activities would be to offer multiple award letter workshops during that spring semester, schedule and advertise workshop dates before winter break so that students know that it's coming up. And that they know that this is a support that's available to them, and potential partners, the entire counseling staff, and just instead of just one counselor trying to help, however many students come, invite more of the counseling staff and invite ISAC core members as well, because ISAC core members can help students with their financial aid award letters as well. And then finally, the last step of the PaCE implementation process is action planning. So during this step, the implementation team would then create a timeline for the benchmarks that they want to focus on for the school year or the school semester, however you all want to move forward, right? So maybe you do 1 to 2 per semester, 1 to 2 per year, 3 to 5 per year, whatever is feasible for your school. So you would address the who, where, what, when, and how involved with implementing each of the benchmarks that you're focusing on, and making sure to solidify all of the logistics that are involved with that implementation. So this just ensures that activities that were brainstormed in step 2 are actually being put into action and who needs to be doing what. So let's look at the action plan worksheet. So it's going to be the same benchmark that we were going through for step 2. So attend a financial aid award letter workshop. So who's involved? So that counselor is the one that's going to continue to organize the workshops, but all counseling staff and an ISAC core member or 2 will be attending to help. So just making sure that they reserve the space, right? So the action items reserve the space in the library, right? Securing that ISAC core assistance for each of the dates. When will it take place? So they decided on 3 dates from 4 to 6 p.m. This counselor decided to continue doing it after school, but I think another way to look at this is maybe there's time during school as well if they are still not getting a lot of attendance after school for these workshops, and where it'll happen in the school library. So just making sure that they reserve that space. They also reach out to admin to set up maybe an all call or an email blast or whatever the case may be, to promote what's going on for this programming. So promoting the award letter workshop so that students know beforehand and students know where to go, where it's going to be, what dates and what times, so that they can talk to their families like, hey, this is going to be happening. I think this could really help us out in deciding our college. So we should go. So just making sure that students know ahead of time, and so do families. Okay, so let's go through our resources and support options. So the best place to turn to for all things PaCE is our PaCE website. So you can access PaCE related materials there. So we have materials and resources to support PaCE. Descriptions of our PaCE support options are on there. I'll be going through our PaCE support options as well. Implementation support and worksheets. And again, a lot of the customized worksheets are now available in Google Sheets versions for schools that are unable to use Adobe or another PDF editor. We have the customized framework examples from other schools, and then other upcoming in-person trainings or webinars. So we do just want to note that on the gift assistance program or GAP access, you can also document your college and career readiness plan. So there's a new drop-down menu. It's to indicate if the school is following a specific type of college and career readiness plan. So the options are other, Illinois PaCE framework, or a customized PaCE aligned framework. Doing this will really help us here at ISAC just determine which schools are already well on their way with implementing either the framework in its entirety or a customized PaCE aligned framework, and what schools are doing. And if you say none, right, that'll also tell us who we need to reach out to help get them started on this process. So we also have updated our Illinois PaCE student checklist. So again, a lot of our materials have been updated since the new framework came out. So the student checklist, it aligns with benchmarks that is on the PaCE framework, high school specifically. So it's 9th through 12th grade. It's written in student-friendly language. So it will be aligned with all of the benchmarks that are on either the Illinois PaCE framework in its entirety, or if you are interested in using this and customizing it towards your customized framework, you can do that as well, or reach out to us if you need help with that. And this is intended to be used by students to guide them through that college and career planning process so that they know in each grade what they need to be doing to be ready for the next grade, right? So each grade level will include action items for both career, money, and college. One other thing I want to say, actually, I think, even if you're only seeing a student one time each year, let's say the only time you see them is registration for 9th, 10th, and 11th grade, if you're handing out the PaCE student checklist, they will still at least have some form of documentation on what they should be doing each year, and they can take that home, right, to their parents or put it up on their fridge and just checking off each of the ones that they're doing each year. We also have an updated Illinois Career Pathways Dictionary. So this is actually a website now. So it used to be just a big document. Now it is a website. So if you are interested in learning more about the career pathways, the Career Pathways Dictionary is now a website where you can find the terms that you're looking for. And also, if you click on a certain term, if there's other terms that are affiliated with that term, you'll see it at the bottom, and it'll help you kind of bounce around so that you can learn more about the different terms when it comes to career pathways. We also have our PaCE implementation guide. So this guide provides guidance for schools and districts on how to adopt a PaCE framework, how to help other partners within your school and district understand the purpose of having a PaCE framework, right? Building understanding with stakeholders, developing that plan for implementation, executing your implementation plan, and also best practices for how to build a team of stakeholders as well. So this is our PaCE support request form. So our PaCE report request form, we offer both in-person support options and virtual options for schools and districts to learn and understand how to implement a PaCE framework. So some of our options include a PaCE overview. This is what y'all are attending right now, so we thank you for being here. A PaCE framework development workshop and implementation support meeting. So the request form does need to be submitted for any of these ISAC PaCE support options, and we do ask that they are completed 4 to 6 weeks in advance, just because, you know, we are also really busy and we need to make sure that we have enough time to schedule that with you all and make sure that we have the professional development team members in order to staff. Okay, so just a little bit more about the PaCE support options. So the PaCE Framework Development Workshop is a facilitated process of customizing that PaCE framework for your school. It's between a 2 to 3 hour time frame where the framework development team would come together. They are required for scheduling this workshop, so just making sure that you have that team beforehand. And the outcomes of the workshop, you would receive a customized PaCE framework formatted to match the Illinois PaCE framework. You would also be getting implementation worksheets and continued ISAC support after the framework development workshop is over. And you can also decide to have implementation support from us as well. So this is a series of 3 one-hour meetings with us here at ISAC. And also your implementation team at your school or district. We would work with the implementation team to understand and also complete the different steps, the take an inventory, prioritize gaps, and action plan worksheets. And then upon completion of those meetings, the school district implementation team will be better equipped to implement their framework, whether it's the PaCE one or a customized one. There is also the PWR Act newsletter. So if you are interested in any of the other PWR Act, such as competency-based learning systems or CCPs or transitional instruction, definitely sign up for that as well. So you would just go to pwract.org and sign up for their newsletter. We also have our financial aid application completion initiative through Gap Access. So I do just want to note a few updates. So right now we do have the rosters ready for Illinois Public Schools, but most of you may already know that FAFSAs are not going to be processed fully until March. So you probably won't be able to see FAFSA data until that happens. So I do just want to let everyone know, like, hey, why am I not seeing, you know, our students populate? I know that they turned it in. Just remembering that you may not be able to see it until March when those start processing. Okay, so I do also want to shout out our new half-day PaCE trainings. So our part 1 is now open for March, so just 1 month from now. Part 1 is perfect for those that are just getting started. So it'll consist of 2 modules, including time to connect with us and work within your teams as well. We have activities embedded. So for part 1, it includes 2 different presentations, how to start with a good plan for implementing PaCE, and how to build a community, how to build community partners, how to find community partners. Again, there's activities embedded within these trainings. And also part 2, it's going to be announced soon. It is taking place in April, but so you all know, it is also going to be 2 different presentations on centering your students and how to work with PaCE within the school day, as well as tracking progress of PaCE and learning about data, you know, identifying tools to gather data, different ways to gather data, and how to move forward with what was learned from that data in order to increase equity, inclusion, access, and opportunity for your students. So definitely, if you're interested, especially to work within your teams and get started on this process, sign up for part 1, and part 2 will be announced probably towards the middle of next month. So look out for that as well. And we also have the FAFSA communication toolkit from ISAC that I want to discuss. Sorry, we are going over just a few minutes, but this is a new resource guide to help assist you know, school counselors or practitioners in communication with families and students. on the best practices regarding to the changes to the 24-25 FAFSA this year, right? So just making sure that your students and families know the updated terms, updated language, what's going on, right? So we have different emails, both in English and Spanish, emails to volunteers that help you all out, robocall scripts, again, both in English and Spanish, different flyers and social media posts. So definitely check it out if you are struggling with how to communicate to your students and parents on what is going on with a FAFSA right now. And then finally, I believe this is the last slide to shout out. We have our First Generation Scholars Network. So to join, the student would be going to our, they could go through to the student portal. They would click the Join Now button. The FGSN Scholars Network is for first-gen students to connect with a first-gen mentor, find different first-gen programs on campuses so that it can help them make a decision on which school to go to, right? Maybe it's a school that really caters to first-gen students. It'll help them, guide them towards different campuses that are, really working to help their first-gen students. And there's also going to be check-in events and other first-generation students that are within this network. So services for this are free. And if you have students that are first-gen, definitely let them know. Oh, sorry, one more thing. We also have our first gen symposium. We are super excited for this at ISAC. This is our first year doing this on Monday, March 11th. So first gen symposium, it's going to be at North Central College. So if you are a professional who was a first gen student, we also want to hear from you as well. So you can scan the QR code to submit your photo and information by February 16th. This is because we're going to have a display at the symposium of all the different first-gen students from around the state of Illinois. So if you'd like to be a part of it, definitely scan that QR code. Okay, finally, our CE and PD requests. So we do ask that you fill out the survey first. The survey has been put in the chat. The chat is in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. So please provide feedback for today's session. We love feedback from you all. It helps us develop our professional development for you. And in order to request those CE credits or PD hours, you have to make sure that this evaluation is submitted by 4:30 p.m. on Tuesday, 2/20. We have Monday off. We usually give folks 2 days to complete this, 2 full work days. So we decided Tuesday would be better. And if you're requesting PD hours, just make sure that you also submit your Illinois Education Identification Number. So again, the link is posted in the chat. And thank you all for joining us today. If you have any questions, we will leave it open for just another minute or two here, or you can contact us at isac.pace@illinois.gov. Thank you.